the fastest and simplest way to save your marriage and create a perpetual honeymoon, even if your partner has blocked you, says they don't love you anymore, or has filed for divorce. So when it comes to saving a marriage, most people automatically look at the same old things: working on their spirituality, or simply bettering themselves, becoming a better person, communication workshops and marriage retreats, hoping and praying that the other person will get it together, or months or even years of therapy, which is usually what people do, etc., etc. When in reality, the recipe is really simple and fast. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the exact 4 essential elements that I have applied over the last decade to help thousands of people save their marriages and create bulletproof, lifelong relationships and perpetual honeymoons. Okay, so let's talk about it. Because all it comes down to are these 4 essential elements. So let's get started. Number 1, 100% responsibility. It doesn't mean taking the blame, which is based on the past. Okay, so we don't want to look to the past. It means getting clear on what you want your relationship to look like in the future, and then refusing to point the finger at the other person for why you don't have that relationship that you want right now. So when you do, all the power for change stays with you. So first, say, yes, I'm taking full ownership for how my relationship goes from here. I'm the captain of this ship and will direct where my relationship goes from here going forward. This is so important and is the difference between those who save and totally transform their relationship and those who do not. Does that make sense? Number 2, discovering your own relationship programming and owning it. Couples therapy, retreats, and the like won't work if fundamentally you and I continue to do the things that destroyed the relationship to begin with. Consider that you've been doing something that destroys the relationship, even if they were the ones who cheated, betrayed trust, or exhibited toxic behavior. That's a tough pill to swallow for some, but if you do swallow that pill, you will shift things drastically for the better. You have to take ownership that you have patterns in your relationships that do not work, even if you can't see them right now. So the bottom line is that people who have relationships fail are not wired to have relationships succeed. But those who do have relationships work got lucky to be programmed to have them work. Your programming is stopping you from having what you want in life. And the myth that relationships are a 50-50 proposition are robbing us of the power to have happy, beautiful relationships. It only takes one person to have a relationship work, okay? So relationships are not a 50-50 thing. That's a lie. If one person and only one person is wired for having a healthy relationship, the relationship will work. If both parties are not programmed for it, the relationship will suffer. The trick is to be that person who can have any relationship work. But first, you have to discover how you are programmed that already doesn't work for your relationship, and then shift those areas yourself. It's simple, but it requires us to let go of things that don't work and to begin to become the people we want to be, regardless of how our partner is being at that moment. Does that make sense? It's up to us. So now I'm going to give you a big question that you can ask yourself if your partner is unhappy or wants to end things, so you can begin to look for your programming. What is it that my partner thinks is intolerable about our relationship that they don't believe will ever change? This question is where you can begin to find the blind spot, your programming, in other words, that has been ending your relationship. When you find those areas, you can precisely shift that one thing and bring your relationship back from an inevitable end to health and vitality and being bulletproof. Does that make sense? All right, number 3, dose minus C. Now, dose minus C stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, or dose as we call it. They're the happy hormones that are released in a relationship that give us that in-love feeling and make us stay in a relationship. The minus C means taking out cortisol, or stress hormone. The bottom line is that you have to take the cortisol out of the relationship while triggering happy hormone. Now, people keep trying to convince their partners to be with them. You can't do that. The logical mind didn't choose you. And so the logical mind can't take you back. And this is why a lot of remedies that we use do not work, and why some of us have heard those dreaded words, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore, or it's not you, I just don't feel good in this relationship anymore. Why? Because the reality is that human beings naturally move toward whatever triggers happy hormones in them and moves away from whatever triggers cortisol or stress in them. Think about it. When you first met, you unintentionally triggered happy hormone in each other. When you were around them, they felt good, and when they were around you, they felt good. And that was it. And eventually you create an association with this person as a reliable, steady source of that feel good that we all need. And so you say, hey, I want to feel this way forever. Let's get married. I want to feel this way when I'm with you because I feel this way when I'm with you. And so you do. And that's fantastic. And then over time, the kids and finances and stresses and soccer practices and this changes, and you associate each other with stress, and you feel the loss of that in love feeling. And when you learn how to intentionally trigger happy hormones in your partner and take out the stress and cortisol that has been accumulated through the years, you will not only save your marriage, but also trigger attraction, commitment, and a desire to forget the past again. Does that make sense? Okay, so lastly, we're going to talk about communication. Now, why a lot of communication workshops do not work is because they're not combining it with all the above elements I mentioned. Communication is a tool that allows us to use the above to have our relationships work. And here's how it looks for most people now. They want to communicate what is not working in their relationship with their partner, right? So that they can make it work together, so they can fix things. But instead of building partnership, it creates a fight and something gets broken. So they end up breaking things, right? So what do we do instead? We stuff it. We say nothing at all, right? And brush these things under the rug of our relationship until we can't take it anymore and we explode, or we or they walk away. It's a rock and a hard place scenario. But there's a way to communicate effectively that instead of destroying things, it builds and strengthens your relationship, leaving you and the other person filled with happy hormone instead of cortisol. It also takes out the past cortisol. It's not just what we say, but even how we process communication that has to change. In this space, when our partners are yelling, screaming, and calling us names, we're happy because now with the right tools, we can alleviate that cortisol that has been building up for so long that is finally going to be gone forever. When we start using communication properly and we can take out the cortisol in the relationship, even in the most difficult conversations, the relationship becomes bulletproof. Does that make sense? Okay, and that's where we get to go to the next thing. So the recipe is really, really simple. All you need is 100% ownership. You got to own it all. Number 2, mapping limiting relationship programming. 3, dose minus C approach. And number 3, communication reframe. That's it. That's the secret to saving a marriage and creating a bulletproof lifelong relationship with a perpetual honeymoon. And it doesn't matter what you guys have been through. And that's what you have to focus on if you want to guarantee that you are that 85-year-old couple holding hands in the park. So I'll see you in your free session, okay? We'll see you in your free session, and you'll be there with one of our coaches. You'll find out how you can make a difference for you, and if you can still create that perpetual honeymoon with your partner so that you can be that old couple in the park holding hands like in love teenagers. Talk to you soon.